It is the Jeff Dubay Show. It's Wild Wednesday. Full strength, that's highly debatable. I'm a little under the weather. Scott Schweitz pushed out at work. I mean, we moved the show to 7:30 because you guys were both going to be late. Tony Dean is here. Jason McGovern's here. Tony and Scott were both, occupied tonight, so we moved it to 7:30 so you guys could show up, which is not easy because I'm at death's door. I got to get home and get to bed. I'm gonna fucking die.
You sound really good, though. I just want
really
to put that out there. You sound great.
You mean sarcastic? Because sometimes when you're
very sarcastic.
Really, because sometimes when you're
so clogged up.
Well, but that's good for me because I've got like a thin voice. I've got a high thin voice. So when I get a little phlegmed up, it gets me kind of sexy. What do you think? Come hither.
Is that what you were thinking? Get right up on that.
I never.
How's that? Was that sexy? The phlegm right in the microphone?
I think it's just loud mostly. I think it's less sexy and more loud is what I've decided. Not to try to kill your vibe. If you want to,
my vibe is unkillable.
Or it's dead. One of the two.
Yeah. If you're trying to sexy up a Wild Wednesday, I'll always appreciate that. I guess.
Dude, I was downstairs freezing and I'm up here sweating. I mean, I'm at death's door. I think I got malaria, to be honest with you. I mean, can you get malaria from a mosquito in February in Minnesota? If it's possible, I will do that. But it is a
warning to the next person using that microphone.
Oh, I'm telling you, we gotta throw this foamy thing away. It is a much happier time to be a Wild fan. Also a happier time to be talking about them. I remember, was it 3 weeks ago? We had a 6% chance, according to some rogue website, that we're going to make the playoffs. 6% chance. I tell you what. I mean, they are 3 points out of the last spot right now, whatever it is, with 30 games to play. I'm not going to say I'm starting to like their chances. I think they're in. I think they're going to make it. I mean, you put a gun to my head right now, I'm going to say they're a playoff team.
It certainly feels that way, and I think that they deserve.
And you're a cop. You could put a gun to my head. No, you're a law enforcement officer.
Don't
tase me. Don't tase me.
And I would never do that. All I ever do is care about your feelings.
I appreciate
We've
that.
always established that.
Well, don't ever tase me.
I think
I have a pacemaker.
I think what we've decided is that
what a goal! He shoots, he scores.
They've dug out of the depth, and
Pittsburgh just scored.
Pittsburgh did just score.
I'm sorry. God, I've got ADD. We might have to turn the channel.
I mean, we all have ADD, be honest. I mean, and by all, I mean me and you. And Jason just stares at us like we are the circus show.
I got to take off my hoodie.
That is Wild Wednesdays.
I'm going to lose 20 pounds in the next hour if I don't take my hoodie off.
So currently, they sit 2 points behind that Vancouver club, who they've beaten twice in the last week and a half or so. They got 3 games in hand on Winnipeg, and they lost in overtime. Dustin Byfuglien benefits from
Byfuglien.
Just a errant drop pass. I mean,
that's why Schweitz didn't show up, because he's Burge's butt boy, and you're in overtime. It's 4-on-4, a lot of open ice. You don't throw this backwards blind pass out to your point. I mean, he's like at the half wall, so he's already deep, and he throws it straight back to the point, and there's nobody there. I mean, it was such a jackass play.
But it puts you in a weird spot, because we're just talking about it. It looks like per Russo. It looks like Stefan Veilleux is going to be the call-up. And if he's the call-up, then he ends up playing a brand of hockey where there's no creativity at all.
Correct.
So then a lot of what we take issue with the Wild power play, with a lot of the Wild players in general, is that they don't take that extra effort to try to get it to the middle, and they don't try to create. So, when a guy like Spurgeon, who is a great player, and one of
made a great play in the first period to Dumba, by the way.
And he's a guy that can produce. He does so much more than you would expect out of a guy his size. When he messes up on a drop pass like that, you just want to explain it away. I mean, I know I do. I know Scott would have showed up here and wanted.
He's sending me points. He's sending me talking points right now.
He would have wanted to defend his guy.
Yeah.
The other thing, I didn't get a chance to be here. I got held over last week, and it was killing me because I wanted to participate. I wanted to be in on the positivity because my appearances here had been so negative. And negative, I believe, justified because it was so bad, and now it's so good. And I think that's what we always want. That's what's amazing about what they've done is they rattled off 6 in a row. I mean, who would have thought that Devin Dubnyk would be the savior?
Scott Schweitz, that's who.
That is true.
And I mean, I've known Scott since he was in 8th grade. We go way back, but I'm just going to rip him right now because he bailed on us when we waited and started the show late just for him.
Sure.
But then he's sending me some really weak talkers. Listen to these. These are really
bash him.
These are really groundbreaking.
And then tell him we gave him so much credit, and then he listens to the show and he gets savage.
Okay, check these out. Point streak continues.
Fun.
Points in every game since the break. In case you didn't cover that, and point streak continues.
Genius.
I mean, those are 2 separate points, by the way. Don't like the call up of Steve Vayu. Oh, here's a doozy. Zucker will be a big loss.
Zucker will be
of course,
a big loss.
He's on the first line. He's the second leading goal scorer on your team. Come on, Scott.
Hot takes.
Here's the last one. Carter should be back soon. A separated shoulder. He doesn't think he's going to be out long. So Dr. Schweitz has checked in. I love you, Scott. You know I love you. I've known you since you're in 8th grade, so don't worry about it.
You know the best part?
Those are weak. He just brought some Kool-Aid to a gin party.
If Scott was here, we would do it to him anyway. I mean, I would. I'm very confrontational, and you know.
Oh yeah, you think
the best part about Scott is that Scott is able to buy in, and he was bought in. You know, he was bought into this club. He ends up attacking Mikko Koivu. With
you're
me a little bit.
You're the Mikko hater of all.
And you know what? In this season particularly, I have appreciated, especially Zucker with Koivu. Zucker with Koivu has been so fantastic, and I'll always argue that Zucker probably helped spark Koivu a little bit.
No, he's an energy guy.
Offensively.
That's what you need.
But
I mean, next subject you need next to Koivu.
We talked about it too. My guy Nino, Night Rider, is going to get an opportunity to fill those Zucker shoes, fill that Zucker role.
Yes, he is.
And I think,
although they juggle lines throughout the game, so who the fuck knows what they're going to do?
Well, and if I know Yo knows best, he could have a potential of going Steve Vayu second line because he's the spark plug.
I mean, you and I were talking about this before the show, and my opinion of Stefan Vayu is that he is the most boring hockey player I've ever seen. He's the definition of one of these, French-Canadian junior players who comes up so system programmed that he never learns any creativity to his game. He can't dangle, he can't stick handle, he can't. You can spot the kids who play on a pond when they grew up, who went down to the park. I mean, of course, I'm partial to the brand of hockey played here in Minnesota, and I love watching the Minnesota Gophers, and you see the kids that grow up and wind up playing for the Gophers. They're guys who grew up, going down to the rink, going down to the park, going down to the pond, whatever. And you're playing a creative game. You're playing a stick handling game. You have a little dangle, a little creativity to your offense.
Jordan Schroeder.
Well, I'm not a big Schrader fan, but he you know what? He's actually provided a little spark. He's got some wheels.
Kid's fast. Kid can score.
Oh, yeah.
He can handle the puck.
He's actually a reasonable replacement for Zucker, other than the fact that he's left and Zucker's right.
And you put him with 2 guys,
yeah,
Nino Niederreiter and Charlie Coyle, who are bigger guys, and they can compensate a little bit.
Make some space
and that
for him.
Line was very, very good.
I agree. And it's not that I've never thought Schrader's talented. I mean, that was never the debate. I just saw him mail it in on his teammates his sophomore year at the U of M.
Well, he's a St. Thomas Academy kid too.
Yeah.
So
he was heartless.
He
was heartless. It made me sick.
A little silver spoon action,
and
a little attitude.
And then to rub it in, he went to the World Juniors over the holidays that year and lit it up, and then came back and did nothing again. So I mean, he just really mailed it in on his teammates.
There was outrage that the Wild didn't select him, and then there was the opposite of outrage when he failed to launch with Vancouver, and then everybody was on the "I told you so" bandwagon, which is kind of interesting. I'd
like to
he
see him
signed here.
I'd like to see him right the ship and be productive and have a good career. I mean, I'm not happy with the sophomore year. He was actually being lured away, I believe, mid-season, a la Kyle Oposo. Vancouver was trying to get him out of there, and he chose to stay.
Snow douchery.
Yeah, he chose to stay, so he gets credit for that. But I mean, he stayed and mailed it. But let's take our first break. We'll come back. Lots to talk about. It's Wild Wednesday. Jeff Dubay, Tony Dean, Jason McGovern.
The Rusty Gatenby Review is the entertaining show about entertainment from movies, music, and more. Award-winning TV guy Rusty Gatenby and his review is the podcast with the biggest cast in entertainment, part of the Alive and Social Network. You can get that Minnesota connection to Hollywood and beyond any time of the day or night simply by clicking on the RustyGatenbyReview.com. That's the RustyGatenbyReview.com, part of the Alive and Social Network.
Folks who've listened to the show, they know that I lived in the Uptown area here, right down Pleasant Avenue, as a matter of fact, and on the corner of Pleasant Lake is where Uptown Pawn is. And I have been here numerous times, had numerous business dealings with them. It's just a nice place with good, honest people. Bob Jacobson, the owner, you run the place. You've always been good to me.
Thanks, Jeff. We try. That's part of our business. We're here to help people, and so everybody walks in the door. We hope we can help.
Well, what I've always appreciated is when people are nice to people who are the low man on the totem pole. Like when I was a bat boy, I liked the star guys who were nice to the bat boy.
Right.
And I mean, I came in here and you guys didn't know who I was. You didn't know I had a radio show, and you treated me great. I mean, just a guy off the street.
Listen, that's the idea with I think a smaller family type business. Somebody walks in the door, we don't want to let them see that everybody gets treated the same way, and we hope that's the case. And we don't want to see them leave without. We try our very best.
It's really easy. It's easy. It's low pressure. Good, honest people. Right on the corner of Lake Street and Pleasant Avenue. You guys got to check out Uptown Pond.
All right, we're back. Wild Wednesday on the Jeff Dubay Show. Tony D and Jason Montgomery join me. Very Jordan-like against Utah right now, right? I mean, I just took the IV out of my arm and said, "Let's go, boys." You know,
in Byron Russell's face.
Yeah, I'm breaking ankles.
What it was? It was his name. His name was Brian, but it was spelled weird, right?
I thought it was Byron, but whatever.
I thought it was.
Who cares? I mean, he's a footnote. He's a poster.
Well, he was the guy on the poster.
Yeah, he's the broken ankle on the poster.
Everybody's got to be the guy in the poster. That was Sean Bradley's role in the NBA.
Well, if it wasn't for Michael Jordan, I wouldn't even know who Craig Elo is. I mean, Craig Elo is forever immortalized for giving up that fadeaway three to Jordan in the playoffs in Cleveland, where Jordan winds up like in the first row pumping his fist. You know what I'm talking about?
The greatest fist pump of all time.
Yeah, it is. Oh. It's like a fuck you, white dude. It's just in his face.
And then the fist
Craig
pump.
Elo. If it wasn't for Michael Jordan, nobody would know Craig Elo ever existed.
That's when the fist pump was the most amazing thing ever, and then it became a very unfortunate white guy dance later on in life. Like it was just super awful.
But then it was made cool again by Tiger.
But the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen, and I'm not kidding. I mean, I loved the 1999 Ryder Cup and the big rally at Brookline at the country club. But one thing we found out watching that is that rich old white guys cannot celebrate. I mean, they all made asses of themselves. Oh. They ran around like missing high fives, practically tripping over each other with their bellies hanging. I mean, it's just fucking embarrassing.
And that's when golfers were still not real athletes, too.
It was
they were
embarrassing.
Just awkward
but I mean, even young guys like Justin Leonard was borderline. I mean, just none of these people knew how to fucking celebrate at all. Layman. I mean, it was
reinforcing the stereotype of no rhythm and awkwardness as Caucasians.
It was a great day in sports, great rally, and I enjoyed it. But the celebrations were just fucking embarrassing. I mean, you should be able to high five without hurting each other. It's not that big of it. Thank God it was the last day because they probably had some injuries. But anyway, we digress.
Speaking of injuries, this team is going to be without Jason Zucker.
They are.
We kind of talked about it. They said 3 months. It's a broken clavicle.
I broke my collarbone before.
Which is just heartbreaking considering that this kid finally had broken through.
Technically, it's clavicle breaking, but continue.
So we're looking at a possibility. Nice. A possibility of doing,
we're producing it up.
Maybe like the first or the second round of playoffs where he could make a reappearance. Yep. You also lose Ryan Carter.
He'd have some conditioning. He'd have to. I mean, he out 3 months. He can do conditioning. That's a nice thing. He can get on the treadmill. Skate. He can skate. He can get on the treadmill. He can do some things.
Wow. And this.
I mean, the skating treadmill, not the jogging.
Jason Zucker also worked his ass off this past off season.
Sure.
He was in the gym in Las Vegas. They did a whole
3 months will do some damage to you, though.
They did a whole becoming wild following him.
Sure.
And he's a guy that trains all year. I mean, I think that I was very high on him into this season because I felt like he was going to come back and earn it. And I mean, he was all over the ice. Yeah. He proved people wrong that he can contribute in both ends. He's
a penalty killer now, for God's sake.
I know, it's unbelievable.
He's been my favorite player to watch this entire season.
Sure.
I mean, he is the spark plug that teams.
Well, he's got that explosive burst. He's got that gear where he can get some separation. He's a shoot first guy. Yeah, you need guys like that.
And this is a fan base too that hasn't had a guy that can break open a game or create electricity since Marian Gaborik. There's plenty of stuff with Gaborik that you could savage. But the one thing that we haven't had since Marian Gaborik is a guy that's just electric.
But a couple of years ago, let's not forget, he scored a big overtime playoff goal, too. That kind of put him on the map in this town.
Who, Gaborik?
Zucker.
Oh, Zucker. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. What put him on the map in this town, too, is that speed.
Uh-huh.
And you lose.
I thought you were going to say banging bitches, but all right, speed.
I'm sure he's doing both.
Well, who is it? It's like Carly Applin or something. I mean, good for him. Proud of you. He knows.
What? Who's Carly Applin?
I've never heard that name in my life.
Google magic.
Is she a porn star?
No, but she is very attractive and proud of you, sir. Good for you.
So, all right, let's get it. Let's
I'm glad my wife doesn't listen to the show because that's
That's
creepy.
so good.
I'm the old creeper husband guy that
that
knows
was.
who
That was.
Jason Zucker's girlfriend
All
is.
right, well, let's get out of the porn for a minute and just talk about some things on the ice because I want you to come to Jesus right now with Mikko Koivu.
Oh, I'm in. I am bought in. I'm a little suspicious. We don't see a little drop off, but this season, we're getting everything that we need out of him. You know, the production offensively is always going to be a thing that ends up being a red flag for a guy making $6 million.
He's the $6 million man.
Allegedly being your franchise player, depending on who you talk to. Obviously, a lot of people think it's Parise now.
Well, duh.
I am hoping that we don't revert into Yo knows best mode, and I'm hoping that Nino Niederreiter gets plugged in right alongside of Koivu, and then they continue to try to build on that line because your top 6 players, your best 6 forwards, if you're going to have Granlund, who gets free passes, Granlund's been the most disappointing forward out of any of the Wild this year. And I only say that because this is a kid that was in the Olympics in Sochi last year, paired up with Teemu Selanne, and they were magic. And Teemu Selanne was feeding him. He was scoring goals. They were playing against the top competition in the world. And then he brought that back to the Wild, and he came back, and he looked like he broke through. Year 3, he's got like 18 points. And this is a kid that is supposed to have that superstar level talent.
Sure. Speaking of big overtime goals in the playoffs.
No. And so going forward, right, you have Parise and you have Vanek on that line. And Vanek campaigned to be on that line. Vanek wants to play with Granlund and Parise because he believes that's where he belongs, right?
Right.
So,
and he's playing pretty well. People could get off him.
And I've been accused of being a Vanek apologist because although he hasn't been scoring the goals, he hasn't been shooting, he's been generating and creating offense this year at all different points, especially with some bummy line mates. You know, not to take a shot at Kyle Brodziak, but then I take a shot at Kyle Brodziak and say that Vanek is handing him gift wrap goals.
Yeah, he was.
Passing it, you know, all he's got to do is tap it in. And Brodziak...
Power play 2 nights ago. Was it Pominville or Koivu? It was Pominville.
It was Pominville.
Vanek set him up. Vanek drew all the attention.
All he had to
slid it through the slot.
All he had to do was tap it in.
Yep.
And so going forward, I'm really hoping that Nino Niederreiter slots in there. And then I'm really hoping that the Gravoa kid, Tyler Gravoa, gets an opportunity because this is a kid who he was a 6th or 7th round pick. He had a blow-up season in the AHL. Kind of came out of nowhere. He's a big kid. He can play on that 4th line that's going to be missing Ryan Carter for a month.
How big is that? I mean, I know he's only 4th line, but he's been solid this year, hasn't he?
But he gives you an opportunity to roll 4 lines. I mean, that's the kind of player that, I mean, he's the closest thing they have to an enforcer in the lineup. But he gives you the opportunity to roll 4. And that's what Yo lives by.
It's hard to give anybody credit for having Ryan Carter come in here, except for Ryan Carter. Because Ryan Carter was in training camp with New Jersey. He wasn't going to make the team. He ended up coming here because Parise's here, obviously. He's a White Bear Lake kid. The other thing about Ryan Carter, his dad, St. Paul police officer, well-respected.
Law enforcement officer, you told me we had to call.
Well, no. His dad has earned St. Paul police officer, well-respected.
Okay.
A White Bear Lake kid, great kid.
I don't see the difference, but whatever.
That's different. You know, I'm out here working, sir. You know what I mean? And so I think Ryan Carter is a huge loss for this team because he kind of does a little bit of everything. I mean, I felt like he was an improvement on this version of Cook, and we didn't get a lot of Cook this year. You know, guy has a sports hernia, but still. Going forward, I don't want to see Steve Veilleux in the lineup. I would rather have the Gravoa kid because you stand to gain. Now, I know the safety blanket for Yo has always been Steve Veilleux, but I mean, if we're looking at a 4th line that's going to be centered by Brodziak now, or Eric Haula, and another super disappointing season for Haula, man. I mean, if he doesn't look in the mirror at this season and wonder what he could have done to improve his season, then somebody needs to get in his ear. And I think I'm not in the locker room, but I think a lot of people in that locker room expected so much more out of him, and they didn't get it this year.
Well, and you saw yesterday, in the middle of the game, changed up the lines, and he put the Gopher line together again. They had maybe 3 shifts, and then he broke them up. But he took Howla off it. So he gave him opportunities. I mean, that line was not a line at the start of the game. He put them together, and after 3 shifts, he yanks Howla. That tells you that. I forget who they put on there with Schrader and Bannick, but they did pull Howla off that line very quickly. It's like, wow, they just put you out there for 2-3 shifts, and you already fucked it up.
Is he not the biggest disappointment only because Granlund was expecting more? Like we really, especially like you said, after the Olympics push, we really expected so much more on him. But Howla is killing us with the lack of production.
I think you can call it 1A, 1B. So on expectation, on whether it's
my nose blow. Did you hear that?
Good little sound effect.
That was a good push. You're giving 110.
My ears are clogged up now. What'd you say?
You know what I said. So I would say 1A, 1B. A lot of people believed off of the strength of the run that Howla made last year, which was pretty remarkable. He goes from being
he took McKinnon out. He erased McKinnon.
And he goes from being the most versatile, most productive, most talented player on that Gophers team, playing on the wing, playing center. Yeah. Goes down, comes
Power
back
play,
up
penalty
to the top
kill,
line.
Did it all.
Goes to Houston, and
I'm talking about with the Gophers.
Yeah, or goes to Iowa. Excuse me. Starts his professional career in Iowa last year. Best player on the team, productive, doing just about everything. He does amazing things against McKinnon in the playoffs. This year has just been absent, just been hollow. And
there's his new nickname, Eric Hollow. That'd be fantastic. Make him. You can make it solid.
Wow. So they say,
well done, Tony.
They say a lot of Thomas Vanish, but really it's Eric Hollow.
I like.
I really, not to be a Vanek apologist, as you were talking about earlier, but this guy has been one of the top 3 or 4 offensive performers on this team all year long. I don't know what
Don't you feel like
people
the fan base is coming around on him, actually, though? I think we're all kind of starting to go,
maybe,
you know what? We were really bitching about him a lot early.
The fan base is coming around. They're just warming up in general. When Vanek was not doing what people didn't want him to do or wanted him to do, at that time, the entire team was melting down. What was going well? Well, what was going well for those 2 months?
Sure.
Nothing.
Injury, goalies.
Pominville couldn't do anything. Granlund couldn't do anything. Proven players, nothing. Nothing clicked. Nothing worked.
Play, yeah.
Nothing. There wasn't a working element on this fucking team for 2 months. I don't blame anybody for being dragged down by the fucking disease. It was just a mess. The goaltending again was the crux of it.
But into the season,
I just like saying crux.
Into the season, you stare at this team, and you're like, I wonder who's going to be the lightning rod. And obviously, there's always going to be Mikko Koivu, haters, defenders.
You know what? People are expecting Vanek to be Heatley 2.0. People went into the season thinking he was Heatley 2.0 before they dropped a puck.
And he's not. The weird thing about Vanek, though, and I've always tried to explain it to people that just have this just outrage over Vanek not having 40 goals right now. What I've tried to explain to people about Vanek is he definitely has lost a step in his skating. 100%. This is the guy though. He wasn't ever a speed demon. That wasn't his game. This is a guy that's super talented. He's got great hands. He's got great hockey IQ, and he's been creating offense all season long.
You know what I loved last night? He threw 2 sharp angle, bad angle shots on net, and they both created all kinds of havoc with rebounds. This is a guy who's been pass first most of the year. Yeah. But you saw from I believe, I want to say one was in the first. They might have both been in the first. One was in the first. One was in the. They were going left to right, right to left on the TV screen. But he had 2 low angle shots that he would have passed up. A month ago. They were bad angle shots, and he just threw them on net knowing that you're going to get a rebound. Low hard shot. He's smart enough. He's not going to throw it up into a glove. Low hard shot. One of them, Parisi got on and actually trickled it through Hutchinson's legs. Remember the one that got behind him? That was a rebound off of Vanek's bad angle shot. And Vanek did that twice, and they both led to juicy rebounds right in the paint.
Speaking of juicy rebounds,
get it on net.
That Niederreiter one where he came flying in last night instead of stopping in front of the net. Am I wrong in thinking that you got to pull up there and keep yourself in front of the net? He just came in flying like a bat out of hell.
I think what's so interesting about Niederreiter, they did an interview, I believe, after either the Vancouver game or the game before, and it was Charlie Coyle scored a goal. It was a Charlie Coyle from I think Scandella, and Nino pumped up Coyle. He pumped up Jordan Schrader, and then when they asked him about his game, he said, "I'm trying to figure it out." And I think Nino's been asked to do many roles.
Yeah.
And I don't think that he's had one thing. I've been very critical of Yo for wanting to play Nino in such a defensive role when you have such offensive talent there. And I think going forward, I mean, especially losing Zucker, they really need to pump up Nino and make him a primary option on the offense. They need to get him taking that big body, crashing the net. They need him shooting. I mean, if you look at where he shot that puck from when he daggered Colorado to move on, that's where you got to get him. You got to get him on the fly. You got to get him shooting the puck.
Big game for the Wild here tonight. Vancouver at Chicago. Looks like they're scoreless after one. Kane on a breakaway throws one right into the tender's mitt. The problem is he's coming in too fast. He's got to basically stop if he's going to do anything. But that's a big game for Wild fans. Keep an eye on that one. Vancouver's at Chicago. Of course, it's silly for me to update things. We are a podcast.
We got a couple live listeners.
We do. Hey, we made amends with Mikko. Is it time to make amends with Pominville? 2 goals in 2 games, or is it too soon?
Well, I mean, he went scoreless for how many games? Like
I know.
13,
I know.
11, 12, 13. I've never tried to tell people that Pominville's not talented. What I've tried to say is that I don't appreciate the handling of him by Mike Yeo. I think that, if this guy's not getting it done, he shouldn't just be Teflon. And I think, going forward, nobody's more snake bitten than Jason Pominville. And snake bitten's a fun term to say for a guy that's not producing what he should with the opportunities he's provided. So what I've always has been my contention is that those opportunities should be provided to somebody else. Jason Zucker, Nino Niederreiter, kids that are going good at that time. Maybe you lessen Pominville's role. It's not a slight to him. It's not that he's not as talented, but if this guy's not scoring for 11, 12, 13 games, maybe he doesn't play the role that you have him playing. And that's not on Jason Pominville. That's on Mike Yeo. The same argument can be made if you have guys that are talented in your defensive corps. Maybe Ryan Suter doesn't have to play 30 minutes a game. Maybe that's not the best thing for the team. Maybe somebody intervenes, and usually that's got to be the bench boss.
All right, we're going to take our final break. We might have cut this one just a little short because I don't want to die during the show.
And I don't want you to die.
I'd prefer to die after the show. It's just a little more. It's just better for appearances if I don't die during the show. Although, can you imagine the downloads?
That would be a popular show.
Well, what would it do me?
I would take a picture and post it online.
Thanks.
I would
Tony.
do that.
Let's take a break.
Hi, everybody. This is Alyssa.
And this is Liz.
And we're with the Focus Radio,
where our focus is to bring you resources to grow your business and double your income.
Join us on Mondays from 3 to 4 p.m. Central Time. TheFocusRadio.com.
Okay, last year, 2013, I lived just down the road, Pleasant Avenue, just a few blocks here from Uptown Pond, which is right on the corner of Lake and Pleasant. And, there are a couple of times, you just try to get to that next payday, maybe a couple of bucks short. If you've got some items, jewelry, diamonds, electronics, you come down here and they give you a fair price for it, and then you come back a week later, 2 weeks later, whatever, you get it back at a real reasonable price.
So we're very competitive, we hope, on different angles, in different ends and different articles. Computers, electronics, TVs, jewelry. We buy, we give loans, and we also have emphasis on diamond jewelry too, that we also try and give credit for the best we can. We're specialists in that area also, so it's an all-round sort of combination.
Well, it's a great place. It's a nice, clean place with honest people, and I tell you what, it's got a real family feel to it. As a matter of fact, it's tied into Strauss family, and I go way back with the late, great Jerry. So, these are people I know and people I trust. You can find them on Twitter, too, by the way. They're at Uptown Pond, and also on Facebook, Uptown Pond, and uptownpond.net.
I'm not a fan of guns, but lawyers and money I always have needs for. Constantly. Sadly.
I went home with a waitress.
I married a waitress, for God's sake. Divorced waitress. Whatever.
There come in the lawyers.
Yeah, the lawyers, and then goes the money.
And the gun thought.
Well, no. Never got to that point.
I'm sorry.
Never got to that point. I love that song.
I take things too far.
Any song that's got the line, the shit has hit the fan. gambling in Havana. How many guys get to gamble in Havana? Was Warren Zevon kind of a privileged rich guy? He was kind of, wasn't he?
I don't know much about Warren Zevon.
Well, he's dead.
I'm sure, Tony, you're just an expert.
Literally nothing.
He's friends with David Letterman.
I think he had a beard similar to Jason.
He died of cancer?
That's what I know about him.
Well, not all the time.
Extensive knowledge here on the Jeff Dubay Show.
I believe the album cover for Excitable Boy, he's clean shaven, much like myself today. What do you think?
Yeah.
Cut myself right on the Adam's apple. Fucking hurt.
Nice.
Yeah, well, whatever.
You gotta suck that thing in. What are we doing?
Well, I'm not a tranny, for God's sake.
Nice. Crocodile Dundee. Crocodile Dundee.
All right, I'm going to fucking cough.
So
no. I'm in charge here. Hang on.
All right, you tell me stuff. I'll tell you things.
We're trying to make amends for the things that we've been critical of that are starting to go the right way. How about the power play? That's next up. Power play looks pretty fucking good over the last couple weeks.
Power
at least reasonable. It's 21% over the last 3 weeks or something.
Power play is scoring.
I make shit up. I make up numbers.
Power play is scoring. I think that they still struggle with being a lot on the perimeter. You know, one of the things that I wish happened more. I'd like to see Mikko Koivu get in the paint a little more.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
a big, strong guy,
and that's
with good hands,
and he scores goals. If he gets in there and he's close. He has such a great opportunity to hold his ground and benefit from any sort of puck put on the goaltender.
Well, you know who might be the Wild's best guy in front of the net? I assume going into the year it was going to be Vanek, but you know who's fucking stepped it up lately? Is Charlie Coyle. He's got some hands. Yeah. He's got hands. And I know he disappears, and I know that we spent much of the year debating whether or not this guy's a third-line grinder or a top six forward, and the jury is still out. But the goal he scored at Edmonton was fucking sick, and the deflection he had a couple of nights ago at home, I mean, he's got hands, and he knows how to use them, ZZ Top. But he
Puffy.
But I mean, he might be. He might be if you have a power play with a minute and a half left in the game and you're down by a goal, he might be the guy I want in front of the net. Sure. He might be the guy I throw out there.
In that area, that's where I think you're going to get Charlie Coyle and Mikko Koivu. That's where they're going to eat, man. They need to get in the paint. A lot of times when Coyle and Koivu are out there though, that's when they're doing the cycle and they never end up in front or in and around the crease with the puck with an opportunity. And I that's something that kind of drives me crazy, but both of those guys thrive in the cycle and they generate a ton of puck possession, and that keeps your opponent off the board. That keeps you on the right side of the fancy stats gods. So it's a tough thing. I'm not in Mike Yo's head. I don't know if he's addressed it with them. I wish somebody would get in Koivu's ear and be like, especially in the playoffs, man, you need to get in the paint. You need to battle. That's where you're going to eat.
That's purely coaching, though, right? Doesn't somebody have to put the system to be where he is in the middle? I mean, that's not where he seems to be operating normally. That seems like that'd be a system thing, a coaching thing.
The allegation is that
on the power play it would be.
The allegation in general with Koivu is that this organization has kind of tap danced around him for a lot of years, and I think nobody's had the confrontation with regard to maybe use your big body and get in the paint.
Is he a little soft? I mean, is he soft?
No, I don't think he's soft. But I think he's very. You don't say much to him if it's not something that he enjoys. I think.
Well, I'm talking about on the ice. I'm not talking about dealing with coaches. I mean, is he he seems a little soft for his size?
I think that he doesn't have time for the nonsense. I think he's a guy that prides himself on not involving himself in.
He's the stereotypical stoic Finn.
Yeah.
I mean, he sometimes you feel like you got to light a little fire. I don't know if he's
and we've talked about that. When he gets angry, he plays differently.
Yes, they call him the angry Finn or the mad Finn or something. But like when it comes to getting out front and getting greasy goals and paying the price. When it comes to power play, I think that's coaching. I mean, you put guys where you want them in the power play. But when you're talking about 5-on-5 play, it's just a matter of want to for people. You want to go to the dirty areas.
Sure.
For a year, Granlund would not go to the dirty areas. Last year he went to the dirty areas. He was a different player.
Yep. As a rookie, he wouldn't even engage at all.
No, he was his perimeters. I mean, he would have skated down the first row if he could have. He would have been in the hockey lodge or whatever, the fishing lodge. There's not the people on the glass who sit on the glass and get to go into the fishing lodge. You know that bar? Have you ever been down there? It's nice.
They put their lips on the glass.
That's where Fallness is. It's where Kevin Fallness' studio is. So you've been to that.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Very nice. So you talk about the power play starting to get going a little bit. Coyle doing some things. What'd you think about the decision to start Dubnyk? Because I was behind it because I think Thursday, I think tomorrow night. I think that's a good time to throw in Kemper. I mean, I'm not to discount Florida. I mean, Florida's fighting for a playoff spot with Boston right now in the East. Yeah. But nonetheless, that was a game. You're on the road. You knew, and I'll tell you this right now. I thought the Wild played a really solid road game last night. I mean, really solid. I think it was, anybody watches, the NHL. You're going on the road, playing back to back with travel, and you're playing a team that is a grinder, a team that's going to take the body. You know you are going to be in for hell for the first 10 minutes. I mean, Winnipeg would be doing a disservice to themselves and their fan base if they didn't want to run the Wild out of the rink in the first 10 minutes. It's a tired team. It's a travel team. We're going to jump on them. And you knew that it was just a matter of get a couple of big saves, weather the storm, and from that point on, the Wilds, they did. I would say at the end of the game, it was a pretty damn evenly played game by the time it was all said and done. I thought they played exactly the kind of game you need to play on the road to steal, and they almost did. But I thought it was the kind of game where you needed Dubnyk because I think Kemper would have gotten shelled in the first 10 minutes.
Yep. And honestly, I'm okay with that. I think that Wild team knows when they match up against the Jets are going to pound them. And the Jets have the players. I mean, look at Byfuglien. Byfuglien as a defender.
He's a criminal, but no, I'm just kidding.
I'm saying he's a menace.
Most folk heroes started out as criminal.
Byfuglien also
slap shot,
chip on his shoulder.
Slap shot, no slap shot.
Have
you guys seen slap shot?
I caught it.
Tony, have you never seen slap shot?
I have seen it, not recently. I saw it as a kid.
They're folk heroes. They're criminals.
I mean, be honest, Goon is a better reference for me. I feel like it's more contemporary.
Are you kidding me? You watched that movie?
I liked the movie.
With Stifler?
Yeah, I liked the movie. I mean, there's some people like it.
Well, you know what?
I liked it.
Greenlay made a Youngblood reference yesterday, so do each his own.
Nice.
Well, there's some good sex scenes in Youngblood. But anyway.
And the other thing is, the other thing about that Jets team, that Hutchinson kid is good, man.
He was good.
You know what's holding them back? Pavlik's garbage. And Pavlik is a guy that they paid and they should not have. That Hutchinson's kid is good. They have another kid in the minors. They'd be so better well off to buy out Pavlik, which they might do after this year. Mm-hmm. I still look at Darcy Kemper as a kid that if he gets out of his own way, he can contribute.
They should start him tomorrow, don't you think?
I want them to.
I think tomorrow's the spot.
And if they don't start him tomorrow, then you start him against Carolina because that Carolina team is pretty dumpy.
Yeah. So you've got opportunities.
You got an opportunity to do stuff here. The other thing we got to talk about, and it was on the screen, and I think it's huge.
You talking about the trade?
Yeah.
Oh, Pittsburgh is just destroying Detroit. By the way, yeah. I've got ADD. They just scored again.
Yes.
But anyway, continue.
We have to talk about the trade because
I don't like the trade because Winnipeg had two black guys, and that's pretty cool for an NHL team to have two black guys, and they traded one of them.
And now they're going to upstate New York. Is that what we're saying?
I just think it's cool for an NHL team to have a couple of black guys.
Sure.
I mean, it's nice to have somebody to talk to.
That's
one take on the trade.
Reference. I don't know.
I'm fucking around. It's a joke.
So here's the thing. Obviously,
there's Paul Martin. He's playing.
The two kids involved in this trade needed a fresh start because they're such high potential prospects and there's so much projection to their games. But the cities they're in have been bad for a long time and it just wasn't working. So the Jets are sending Evander Kane, who's out for the year.
I believe the NHL team, by the way, the Winnipeg Jets, the NHL franchise of Kevin Weeks back in the day. So they are down with.
Nice.
Well, am I wrong?
I'm not even touching
I'm saying.
it. Just leave it.
Am I wrong?
Kevin Weeks, one of my favorite analysts now. One of my favorite analysts
and
now.
The second greatest African American goaltender of all time, or African Canadian.
African Canadian.
Whatever.
I believe they call themselves that.
Grant Fuhr being the greatest, of course, but he was.
I think he is also responsible for No 5 Hole, which is a really cool brand. But you have Evander Kane, you have Zach Bogosian, and then you have a guy that I've never heard of going to Buffalo, which is a team that has been rebuilding since Vanek, Pominville.
Oh yeah. Before that, they've been rebuilding since Clark Gillies.
Nice, and that's a good reference. I know that one.
That was solid.
That had to do with hockey.
So I went back past Dominic Hasek. I mean, I went way in the Wayback Machine.
And the Dominator was the center of the universe there. So
I think Bob Sauvé was their goaltender back then.
So what returns from Buffalo is Tyler Myers, he's a kid. That is 6'8".
Yeah.
He's
a Chara clone. He's not a Chara clone, is he?
He comes out. No, he although he's more physical than I think people realize, and he's also shown that he can have an offensive component to his game. He comes out as an 18, 19-year-old.
Oh, big save.
Highly touted kid.
That way, Fleury. Has
NHL success, and then he has stalled out and just become this weird enigma. So then you have enigma for enigma with Evander Kane. Evander Kane's a kid scored 40 goals. Evander Kane is a kid that fights, that scores goals, that is electric on the ice.
But has been a malcontent and kind of a dick.
And
yes.
And if a guy scores you goals, like you know, look at Patrick Kane. Patrick Kane has
he's not a dick.
He has two Stanley Cups, but he's also a guy that has the other stuff. You know, he punches a cab driver.
Well, cab drivers have it coming. I mean, I've taken a lot of cabs the last few years. Most of them got it coming.
But if you're making,
he's a known partier too, right?
Well, yeah. I mean,
he's young, good
most
looking.
of them probably are.
I mean,
young, good looking in Chicago. He's getting in.
If you're top of the world in hockey, you're a partier.
Yeah, you know. Well,
why wouldn't you be?
Yeah, you don't need to be punching cabs. I mean, no matter how annoying
they can't all be Zach Parise and be the milk spokesman.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like sometimes you end up Danny Heatley.
They're not all Cub Scouts.
What are you talking
They're
about?
not all Cub Scouts. There's no.
So they're also they're sending Tyler Myers. They're sending a Joel Armia kid. They're sending the next generation of agitator Lemieux. They're sending a first round pick. So
it's a 7-player deal. It's a lot of components.
We're getting Drew Stafford, who had been rumored.
We're not. Winnipeg.
Well, yes, that's true. We're getting Drew Stafford in our backyard, and he's
Shattuck boy.
He is a
Fighting
Zach
Sioux.
Parise guy, and he had been rumored here forever.
He's the kind of guy who can play if you put people next to him. He's not worthless. He's not worthless.
And he's going to be playing on a Winnipeg Jets team that has a very good opportunity to be an opponent of the Minnesota Wild.
Yep. He
When it
could
comes
make a difference.
Playoff time.
He could make a difference. Hey, you're going to hate me for this, but you know who doesn't suck lately? Prosser.
Yeah.
Seriously. I mean, he's been. Dumba and Prosser have been a suitable third pairing.
Sure.
I mean, what do you want out of a third pairing?
Well, you know what I want? I want a guy that can play lefty, and then I want Prosser to be in the rotation or be elsewhere. I mean,
they played better lately. I think Prosser's been reasonable. I mean, he has not been a train wreck by any stretch. He had a big block last night, by the way, and gutted it out.
The reason the Buffalo trade is so significant is those are two.
You're off a Prosser pretty quick, aren't you?
Yeah, I don't know. I moved.
You hadn't run my Prosser bit, but that's all right. Go ahead.
You know, I don't want to savage the guy. No, I don't hate him. I don't hate Prosser. I think that he has moments where he elevates his game. I think he's struggled a lot this year. I thought he was better last year at times. But Prosser's just not a lefty. I mean, Mike Yeo goes from last year, Prosser can't play lefty, to this year, Prosser's his lefty because that's his veteran guy. I mean, you know, when you lose Keith Ballard, like we lost Keith Ballard would still be in the lineup.
Look at these cheap Kleenexes on this black. Look at this mess. Looks like I've been doing lines off the fucking black tablecloth. It's just what are cheap Kleenexes?
Mostly that's just boogers, I think.
No, it's just white. No, just these Kleenexes are disintegrating and getting all over the black tablecloth.
Those are the Puffs lotion, man. Those are the good ones.
Those are my namesakes.
Well, I'm not puppies.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
No royalties, huh? What are we doing?
You would think so. Hey, we're gonna wrap it up here in the next few minutes. We're gonna go 45 tonight because without Scott and me, the fact that I'm out at death's door. So in closing, we've talked for weeks. Well, at least I have, because I got fucking insight. The schedule in February was soft, and I looked at February 14th, Valentine's Day, and said, "Boy, you could make some hay between now and Valentine's Day. It's possible." But really, it does continue beyond February 14th. I mean, we just talked about Carolina. I mean, the schedule is still very susceptible for this team to continue on at least somewhat of an influential run.
They had to have a lot of stuff go right, and that stuff went right. So now what we look at going forward is March 2nd is the NHL trading deadline. And between now and March 2nd, you're 2 points behind Vancouver. You're 3 points behind the Jets. You got to win games, and then
you've got some games in hand on some of these teams too.
And then it's going to be on Chuck Fletcher to try to add to this team. And
what do you think they'll do at the deadline? What do you want to see at the deadline? And don't give me names. Give me concepts. I mean, and now, of course, the need is greater with the two injuries. I mean, when Stefan Veilleux's getting a phone call down in Iowa, there is a need. I mean, had they not suffered those injuries, I'm not sure I wouldn't be ready to go ahead and roll with what you got. But now there's a need. What do you want?
We're in a weird place where the roster, Southside Studios is not a weird place. I'm saying in general,
it's a weird place, but it's a cool weird. But anyway, continue.
In general, we're in a spot where You have a little bit of cap money to move. You have some contracts that you're probably going to benefit from. Granlund and Eric Howla are going to be contract year RFAs next year. Neither one of them done anything to help their leverage. In fact, Chuck Fletcher rolled the dice a little bit and won on those guys. If that would hurt. If I have it my way, I think maybe you add a center. Especially with the way that Howla is disappointed. If you can add a center, I think you strengthen your opportunities. A lot of people want a lefty to round out the bottom pair. We haven't seen a lot of Christian Folin. I think Christian Folin is a better opportunity than Prosser is in the lineup. To
Pittsburgh 4-0. Get him out of there. Get Jimmy Howard in the game. What the hell are they doing?
Elevate his game. I will be very, very interested to see what Chuck Fletcher decides to do here because, this went from...
Hey, look at that. He's asking him. Did you see that? He went down to the end of the bench and asked Jimmy, are you ready to go? Because, Jimmy, he's coming off an injury, correct? Jimmy Howard? This was the game that was tabbed as his big return. He's at the end of the bench, and...
it's 4-0, and they're asking him
why can't I think of the Red Wings coach's name?
Mike.
Babcock. Yeah. He went to the end of the bench and you could see him talking to Jimmy like, "What do you think?" I mean, it's 4-0.
That's a sweet goal.
That was filthy.
It was, and I'm not putting this all on the goaltender, but it's 4-0 early in the second, and he's down at the end of the bench asking his star if he can go in there and bail this guy out.
Wow, and they don't have great options behind Jimmy Howard either.
That's Jason Mraz in the net for the Red Wings. We talked about him 2 weeks ago.
So it wasn't Jimmy Howard ever?
What are you talking about? Not tonight. It hasn't been.
Oh,
Jimmy Howard's on the bench. Didn't you get my whole bit? Was Babcock went down to the end of the bench and asked Jimmy Howard's coming off an injury.
Oh,
Jimmy Howard's coming off an injury, and tonight was the game that was. They talked about this. I saw a promo on NBC Sports. This game was kind of touted as Jimmy Howard's return to the net because he's been out. But he's on the end of the bench with the ball cap on, and Ben Babcock just went down there and said, "Hey, dude, this is a fucking train wreck. Can you go?" And he must have said no.
Yeah, it looks like he answered with a no.
Yeah, because he's not in there.
Yeah, this
kind of human drama unfolding before our eyes.
I literally give not one shit about Eastern Conference hockey.
Well, Jason Mraz between the pipes,
and I try hard.
What's his name? Mrazek? Is that who that is for Detroit? Mrazek.
Yeah, Mrazek. I try hard to care about an Eastern Conference team. My team this year is Tampa Bay.
Yeah, well, you're a front runner. Fucking front runner. Yes. You take the first place team. You're just like Stamkos.
I called it out before the season. Last year it was Montreal.
All right, we're out of here. It's been a wild Wednesday. Thanks to Jason McGovern, Tony Dean, Scott Schweitzer.